So this is a playlist. If we want to add a pattern and create a pattern, we click next to the playlist on the piano roll, right? So this is the piano roll. This is the keyboard. This represents the notes. And by left clicking onto the piano roll, we can add notes. We can change the length of the notes by left clicking and dragging the length of the note on the edge. These notes don't really sound well together, right? But you get the point. And after I add 3 notes, you see a difference in the background. So the lighter spots, those are the correct notes. Those are the notes that are on scale. Whereas the darker ones, they are not on scale. So after adding your 3 notes, you are in a scale, and you should stay within the notes of the light notes, right? So if I would try a black one, it doesn't sound good. It sounds good again. And using this framework of dark and light notes, it makes it very easy not to add wrong notes. Sometimes dark notes are good, but in the beginning, it's easier to stay within the light notes. How Tristan does it in his last video is he creates the bass line. This is a very smart way because from a bass line, you can create chords, and creating a bass line is quite easy. So starting with the bass line, then adding the chords, and then the melody is the go-to way as a beginner. You can also start with the melody, then create the bass line and the chords. The order doesn't matter. The easiest way to do it is by adding a bass line first. So let's create a bass line. We go down a pitch. So now I've added 3 random notes, and now I am in a scale. So the next note I choose should be this one. Could be this one. It could be this one. It could be this one. I think I'm going to choose this one. And for the second half, I'm going to choose the higher one. And to add the chords on the bass line, we just add notes that are light. This one doesn't sound so good, so let's try this. So now also the interesting thing is now the light notes change as well. And this can happen, but that's not a problem. So just stick to the light notes always. Even if they change, the other notes you place are still on light notes. So don't worry about that. And here, this is also a good example. Sometimes the black notes are actually good. So sometimes you should just listen to what your ear says. So the light note here is this. It doesn't sound good at all. This sounds better. Now I've added a second layer to the core, so we can duplicate it. Let's add another layer. And now we're done. That's how fast it can be. Obviously, I have a lot of experience and I know which notes to place where. Because there's a lot of pattern recognition involved and a lot of listening to what your ears know is good. But with this technique on staying on the light notes and sometimes trusting your ears with black notes, you should be fine. A very important concept as well is symmetry. So as you can see, there is an inherent beautiful symmetry within this pattern. It goes down and it goes up. It goes down and it goes up. This one goes up and it goes down. It goes up and it goes down. This goes up and down and up and bounces back down. So there are these movements within the chord and the melody which are intrinsically beautiful and which make the melody beautiful. And this is important because if there is no symmetry, the ear, the brain of the person listening, it doesn't really understand what's going on. If there would be huge jumps and no symmetry, it is hard to compute for the brain as a listener, right? So this is how you create beautiful chords. And now we could even add a melody on top. And for that, let's use the patch we've created with Fabric. And for that, we just use the white notes. And I've created this melody quite quickly. But basically, we're using notes from the chords here, and we're building a motive around it. So this is the motive. Dum, dum, boom, boom. And we're repeating the motive in the second half and variating some notes. And this is also a key concept when creating melodies, to have motives and add variations, because this makes it easier to remember for the listener. If you have too much variation, so it doesn't really make sense. Let's listen to it in context. And this is just with changing the frequency. Imagine if you would change the rhythm, things get even more confusing. It's hard to follow, even though this is okay still. It's not as good as keeping it simple. Also, this patch could be much less loud. Sometimes it's also good to have empty spaces. It doesn't need to be notes everywhere, right? So I left this empty space on purpose because we already have some notes playing here. But sometimes it's good to let the melody breathe. We could also add some notes, right? This could also work. Actually, this is also fine because the notes are already very long. You could also add notes there, but you don't have to. It's up to you. You want to have a lot of notes, you want to let the track breathe more. Maybe if you don't have notes here, you have a different element playing in this section. There's a lot of variations, right? Also, what is a very useful tool in creating melodies and chords is the concept of ABAB or ABCA. And this refers back to the symmetry. So here, for example, we have an ABAB melody. This section is repeated again in bar 3, and this section is repeated again in bar 4. So this will be called A, B. What also works is A, B, A. So for that, it's very simple to show. We could create an A, B, A melody like this. we'd have to copy this section. And listen again. Right? So it also works. And here we would here we reconstructed a similar rhythm that is existing in the A part. Also very good, A, B, B, A. And there are these patterns, A, B, A, B are quite common, A, B, B, A is quite common, A, B, A, C is common. I would stick to those at the beginning. So A, B, B, A, A, B, A, B, and A, B, A, C. Obviously, there's more, but those patterns exist in like 90% of the songs and the melodies in them on Spotify. So sticking on those, keeping things simple, is key when making melodies. And this is what you should remember whilst you're doing your melody. Am I adding too many notes? If so, maybe remove some, look how it sounds like. Remember that try to stick to symmetries, try to stick to flows, try not to make the notes too far apart. It can work sometimes, but it shouldn't always be like this. And also to get inspired by other tracks. Listen to other songs, how they do their melodies. Don't copy them maybe, but getting inspired is totally okay. Totally fine. And obviously you will not create perfect melodies in the beginning. It's a learning curve. Try to copy melodies, see how they sound like, get inspired them. That's the way I learned how to make melodies. By looking at my favorite tracks, reconstructing them, and then changing some things. That's fine. That's the fastest way to learn it. And don't be too overwhelmed if you think your melody sounds bad. It's okay. In the first months of your music production, your melodies won't be good unless you've been classically trained before. It will take time, a lot of practice, and I've been doing this for 8 years professionally, so I have a head start. So don't be ashamed if you think your melody is good. If your melody is better than mine, awesome. You're on the right track. So that's it, basically, to melodies. I think I'll go much more in depth in the application phase, where I will show different types of melodies in regards to different types of elements, because different elements take different melodies and different chords. Let's get into the next phase.